The theater that played without a playwright. On the self-animating psyche. In a wood at the edge of a small town stood a theater. There was no road to it. No one had built it. No one had owned it. It had simply been there for as long as anyone in the town could remember. The oldest people of the town said that, in their youth, the very oldest of their own time had spoken of it as already old. The theater was, in some sense, indigenous to the wood. It was a small building. It had a roof of slate. It had a single door at the front and a single door at the back. The front door opened onto a small lobby. The lobby opened into the auditorium. The auditorium had perhaps 100 seats. The seats were of dark wood, polished by no hand the town knew of, but kept inexplicably free of dust. The stage was at the far end of the auditorium. The curtain was red. Every night at dusk, the theater played. The lamps lit themselves at the moment the sun touched the horizon. The curtain rose by itself 3 minutes later. Actors no one had hired walked onto the stage and performed a play no one had written. The actors were on inspection, the people of the town. This was the strange part. The actor playing the king on any given night was by daylight the town's baker or the town's blacksmith or one of the town's young men or old men, depending on the night and the part. The actress playing the maiden was the schoolmistress or the seamstress or the elder fisherman's wife. The actors were, in this sense, ordinary townspeople. But they did not, by day, know that they were the actors. If a villager met one of them at the market the morning after a performance, the actor did not recognize himself. The baker would shake his head. "I was at home all night," he would say. "I do not act. I have not, in fact, ever set foot in that theater." He would say this in perfect sincerity. He had no memory of having stood on the stage the night before. The actors returned to the theater at dusk as if drawn. They did not, in the act of walking, know they were walking. Their bodies knew. They came in through the back door. They were dressed somehow in costumes that fitted them and that no one had made. They knew their parts. They had somehow been rehearsed by a process no one had observed. The audience seats were always empty. This was the second strange thing about the theater. The townspeople did not, on the whole, attend. They knew in some inarticulate way that the theater played each night, but they did not on any night go. They went to bed. They woke in the morning. They did not in their daily life speak of the theater. One night, a man from the town, walking home drunk, stumbled into the woods and into the theater. He had been drinking with friends at the inn. He had walked home by an unusual path in the dark, and he had become disoriented. He had pushed through brambles he did not recognize. He had stumbled eventually into a small clearing he had not known existed. In the clearing was a theater. The lamps were lit. The front door was open. He went in. He sat down in the front row. The actors did not stop. They were performing the only play they had. He watched. The play was his life. Every scene he had lived was on the stage. The actor playing him was wearing his clothes, his actual clothes, the ones he had worn that day, with the small ink stain on the collar that he had not yet noticed, but that was there in the actor's collar also. His mother was on the stage. She had been dead for 20 years. She was being played by the schoolmistress who was at home in bed. His wife was on the stage. She was being played by the elder fisherman's wife. The children he had buried, 2 small daughters, who had died in a fever in his 30s, were on the stage. They were being played by 2 of the town's actual children who were at home in their own beds. The scenes proceeded in order. He saw the day he had met his wife. He saw the day they had married. He saw the births of his daughters. He saw the day of the fever. He saw the funerals. He saw the years after of slow recovery of his work, of his drinking. He wept through all of it. The play continued. It came, at last, to the last scene he had lived. It was the scene of his afternoon, that day, his quiet meal with his wife, his decision to go to the inn, his drinking, his walk home through the woods, his stumbling into the theater. The actor playing him in the last scene walked to the front of the stage and sat down in a chair facing the audience, exactly as the man himself was sitting. The 2 of them were, for a moment, the same person mirroring each other across the proscenium. The actor playing him stepped to the edge of the stage. He looked out into the empty seats. He looked specifically at the man. "We have been waiting," said the actor. The man could not speak. "We have not been able to perform the next scene. We do not know how it ends. We have been performing the same play every night for years, hoping you would come. The play is your life. It is, at this point, fully performed up to this evening. The next scene is the rest of your life. We cannot, by ourselves, write it. We do not know what you will do. The theatre cannot, in any of its strange capacities, dream up your decisions. It can only perform what you have already done. The performance has been our way of waiting. We have been performing every night, hoping you would one evening walk in. You have this evening walked in. You are now sitting in the seat. The theatre is asking you, what happens next? The man could not, for some time, answer. He had not, in many years, been asked. He had been living, in some sense, on the inertia of his griefs. The daughters had died. The wife had stayed with him faithfully. He had drunk. He had worked. He had drunk more. He had not, in years, asked himself what he wanted the next. Scene to be, he had assumed there was no next scene. The play, he had assumed, had ended with the funerals, and what had come after had been a kind of long epilogue. The theatre waited. The actors on the stage stood in their costumes. They did not move. The lamps burned. The curtain was still up. The townspeople were in their beds, asleep, dreaming the play they were also performing. He sat for a long time, then he stood up. He walked slowly up to the stage. He climbed the small steps at the side. He stood on the stage with the actors. He looked at the actor playing him. The actor playing him looked back. They had very nearly the same face. The actor's face was perhaps a little younger. He had not, in the actor's performance, accumulated the lines the man himself had accumulated in his last decade of grief. "I have not," said the man, "wanted to write the next scene." "We know," said the actor. "I have wanted, in some sense, to stop the play." "We know, but the play has gone on without me. You have been performing it. You have been waiting." "Yes. What do I do?" "You decide the next scene. We will perform whatever you decide. We will perform it tonight, in fact, immediately after you decide. The theatre will, after that, no longer be a theatre for you. It will be only a theatre for someone else who has not yet come in. Many people in the town have not come in. They will, one day, stumble drunk through the wood. We will be waiting, but for you, after tonight, the theatre is finished. You will write the rest of your life by living it. The theatre is, in some sense, the place that performs your life until you take it back." The man stood on the stage for some time. He thought of his wife. He thought of her at home in her bed, dreaming, in some way she did not know, of the funerals, of the years of his drinking, of the slow loneliness of being his wife. He turned to the actor. "In the next scene," he said, "I go home. Yes, I sit with my wife. I do not drink. I tell her I have been a poor husband since the daughters died. I ask her to forgive me. I do not promise to be better. I have promised that before and not been better. I only ask her to forgive me and to begin again with me, as much as we can begin again at our age. Yes, in the scene after that, I do not drink the next night. Yes, I do not know what comes after that. I will, I think, decide it as it comes. Yes." The actor on the stage looked at the actor playing his wife. They began, immediately, to perform the new scene. The man who was standing on the stage with them found himself, somehow, walking down the small steps and out of the theatre without having decided to. He was, instead, walking home through the woods. He was, by his own legs, performing the scene he had just written. He came home. His wife was awake. She had been worried. She had been waiting up. He sat with her. He told her, exactly as he had told the theatre, what he had been and what he was sorry for. She wept. He wept. They held each other for a long time. He did not the next night drink. He did not, in the remaining decade of his life, drink in the way he had drunk. He never, in the remaining decade, went back to the theatre. He could not, in fact, find it. He looked several times in the wood. The clearing he had stumbled into seemed not to exist. He stopped looking. He understood that the theatre had finished, for him, the work it had been waiting to do. He lived another 12 years. He was, in those years, a different man than he had been in the years before the theatre. His wife was, in those years, a different woman. The town noticed. They could not have said what they noticed, but they nodded to him in the market in a different way. The theatre is, in some province, still in the woods. It plays each night. The audience seats are mostly empty. But sometimes, on a particular night, in particular weather, a man or woman of the town stumbles into the clearing, having taken a wrong path on their way home. They sit in the front row. They watch the play. They are asked. Some answer, some do not. The ones who answer do not in the morning remember the answering in any precise way, but their lives are different. The theatre in the wood does not need to be remembered. The theatre in the wood needs only to be performed in until the watcher in the front row takes the next scene back into her own hands. The theatre is patient. It has been there a long time. It will be there a long time. The play is being performed every night. Whether you watch or not, the actors know their parts. They are waiting for you to write the next scene. They cannot write it. You must come into the empty seats. The theatre is, in some sense, the place that performs your life until you take it back. The work is to climb the small steps at the side, stand on the stage, look the actor playing you in the eye, and decide. The next scene begins as soon as you have decided. The theatre, after that, will no longer be a theatre for you. It will be for someone else waiting. Vague parables of the soul Niger.